My name is Johnny Cochran. My family knows me as JJ, RJ. I come from Bell, Oklahoma. It's on the outside of Adair County. And I grew up there for most part of my life until I was about 11. Then I moved to Stillwell, which is a little town outside of Bell. And from there I started messing up, and I was about the age of 12, and I started messing up there. Started messing up all the way to the time I was 14 and 15, and started getting in worse trouble, got into drugs, and ended up messing up till I was 18, and I go to jail after when I hit 18. And I spent from 18 to 29 in institutions and detention centers and in and out of rehabs. I ended up giving my life to the Lord on June 4th, 2018 in Tulsa, Oklahoma at a rehab center. And I've been serving the Lord for 2.5 years now, going on 3. And we started a ministry a while back. It was a porch ministry at the time. And to start this ministry, it was to be an outreach thing to people that were coming back from where we grew up, and we know the ropes and we know what's going on there. So we went back, and we've been trying to go out there and spread the love of God and Jesus, just to let them know that somebody does love them, that the hopelessness I once felt, that they can be set free from it also. One time I was sitting at a rehab, and I never really went to church, and whenever I was growing up or older. And I was sitting in this church, and this guy he was giving a sermon, and I was actually, it was part of the rehab that I had to go to church. So I went in, and I was just there. So I sat down, and this guy gave an hour-long sermon, and he said something in his sermon that was very touching. He said, whenever we get done, he said, allow me to pray over you if you won't let me pray with you. And he said, go back to your room and look in the mirror and ask yourself, is this the guy I always wanted to be? So I went back to my room that night, and I just went ahead and just did it, because what could I lose? So I looked in the mirror, and I put my head down, and I said, okay, God, let's do this. And I looked in the mirror, and I said, is this the man I always wanted to be? And when I looked up at the man in the mirror, the only thing I seen was eyeballs looking back at me. It was an empty shell sitting there just looking back at me. There was no hope, there was no peace, and there was no life or emotion in that body. And I fell to the floor, because I knew this wasn't the man that I was supposed to be in. And I knew I needed help, because I was chained, I was in shackles, and I needed help. And I knew that's when I needed a relationship with Jesus. I did grow up in a Christian family. My grandma and I used to go to church. I used to help her in a church band whenever I was younger. My granny would, she would call, and she would always, I don't know if I was forced, but I knew I loved helping my granny, because she did kind of raise all her grandkids. So she would call me on a Saturday nights, and she called me what my uncle called me. She used to call me Jungle Boy or Chudge. And she would say, are we going to church tomorrow? And I didn't want to disappoint my grandma, so I would say, yeah, I would be there. And I would have my mom wake me up the next morning, and me and my grandma would go to church. And so, yes, I guess to answer the question, yes, I did grow up in church until we moved to Stillwell. And once we moved to Stillwell, my granny fell sick, and she wasn't going as much, so I wasn't going as much. And then I can't remember the exact date, but my grandma was hit by a car over by Walmart in Stillwell, and she ended up in a hospital and eventually losing her life. And that was the only thing that kept me in church. And when she passed away, I turned away from God, which I was already on that path. But that was just a little bit of, I guess you would say, anger I had towards God at the time, because he did kind of take one of my best friends. The biggest change in my life would be, I'm a loving person now. Somebody I've always wanted to be. I've always wanted to love the community. I've always wanted to love just anybody. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a particular color or anything. I just love people, and I've always wanted to help the homeless. I always wanted to help the kids out there that are struggling with what I went through. And whenever I accepted Jesus into my life, that's when I knew I was what he had saved me for, was to all them things that I love and where I came from. I knew the biggest change in my life was that I was going to be going back to help the people that grew up the same way I did. The people who know me from my past and to today, when I see them in the store, or when I even help some of them get a job where I work. Whenever I see them, there's people that say, I know you can see God's doing wonders in your life. And, them people, they always tell me, you've really come a long ways, and it's really an inspiration to us that, that you can come from a strung out lifestyle, sleeping in garages, robbing people, stealing from people. If God can save you and change your life to where it is now, then it gives them hope also. What I really want to do is it's plain and simple. I just want to make my Father in heaven happy. I mean, I know the question would be I want to help communities. I want to help them little kids to, grow up and knowing Jesus, even if it's just planting the seed, like we talk about all the time. Just like we go ahead, and I'll just go ahead and tell you about the ministry we do. Like, we'll go out a week ahead of time and pass the flyers out, which I've come to know as them calling it sow in the ground. And the next week we'll send a ministry team in that same community, and they'll plant the seeds, and they're allow God to do the rest. So I guess I would say that would be it right there. You ain't got to be empty no more. You ain't got to be lost no more. There's somebody out there that loves you. And there's somebody that wants to take on your pain. Somebody wants to break them shackles off you. I mean, there's somebody that that emptiness you long for at night, when you're strung out in the garage, or you're drunk to where you can't even move no more, or you even wake up in a drunk tank. Or you're just sitting there, you lose friends. Like I had lost a friend today. It's kind of why I'm emotional. But, I lost a friend he got shot today. And, I would say if you're really longing for Jesus, just come to him and just leave that emptiness at his feet at the cross. You leave that addiction at the feet of the cross and come to him. And let him express his love on you and his compassion. Because, you have nothing else to lose. It's well worth it. The street violence around here, the young Indian boys killing each other left and right. And, they don't know any other way out. They think that's the life for them because that's all they grew up in. But I'm just asking, just to give Jesus a chance. Just give him one chance, and just cry out to him and allow him to do the rest, because he's waiting on each one of us.